Ladies and gentlemen, a combined weight of over 11,000 pounds of killer whale jumping 21 feet into the air. The stars of our show, Hugo and Lolita. This time it'll be Hugo on the right, Lolita on the left. Watch out for the water.
It is said that before you can get someone to learn, you've got to first get their attention. The people at the Miami Seaquarium have never had much of a problem doing that. Since the Seaquarium opened its doors in 1955, millions of people from every country on Earth, from king in exile Peter of Bulgaria to Arthur Godfrey, from Japanese princes Akihito and Hitachi to rocket scientist Wernher von Braun, have gained new insights into life in the sea and have had a very enjoyable time in the process.
Oh, you have a toothache? I guess I'd better take a look.
Ladies and gentlemen and children, please remain seated. Be very quiet. This is dangerous.
It's a fish spine.
You believe that? Bob, you deserve some applause. That's... Wow. He's going to try to remove that fish spine.
I'll get it out.
So there goes the arm inside. I think he's got it.
I've got it.
We can see it.
No wonder it hurt. Here, this might make you feel better.
Oh, she feels much better.
Well, if you think that was splashing water, you haven't seen anything yet. And once again, they change places underwater with another swan dive. This is followed by a double breach. Watch out for the water. And once again, they begin their speed
They've
run
seen 10,000 pounds of killer whales perform spectacular 20-foot leaps. They've seen highly trained sea lions go through all sorts of fun and games.
The signal. The windup, the pitch. It's a line drive in the center field. Okay, Penny covers center field. She has to. She can only really swim. She's doing all right so far. I can do it, and I did it. Yeah. Across the stage. There you go. Taking your final bow. That's Penny and her trainer, the pitch.
Most victims of shark attack are surface swimmers.
They've seen man-eating sharks devour a huge ocean fish with one snap of their powerful jaws.
Beach in water less than 10 feet deep. Sharks are extremely well adapted to their environment. Many people have been told certain things about sharks which are not true. Number one, that they have bad eyesight. They have excellent eyesight, particularly in conditions of low light. They also can hear the splashing, thrashing sounds made by a hooked fish or a happy swimmer from at least a half a mile away.
They've seen over 10,000 living creatures of the sea. They've laughed, they've thrilled, and they've loved every minute. And hopefully, they've also learned. Seaquarium curator Warren Zeiler explains why.
I think Seaquarium plays just as important a role in the field of education as it does in entertainment. This is a major function of Seaquarium. We're not there just to show people porpoises jumping and things like that, but also in a very gentle way to help them learn about all the creatures that we find in the sea.
One loggerhead weighs close to 500 pounds right now, but that's not heavy.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the top deck of the main building here at the fabulous Miami Seaquarium, one of the finest marine aquaria in the entire world. We're going to see an exciting show right now with our high-jumping, tail-dancing, and hurdling dolphins. I know it's going to surprise most of you, but beneath that streamlined exterior, the skeletal structure of this animal is remarkably similar to that of man. As a matter of fact, their ancestors lived and walked on land in prehistoric times. They returned to the sea some 60 million years ago.
And while some ways may seem more entertaining than educational, the lessons still come through, loud and clear.
They're members of the whale family, being classified as toothed whale, and this particular species has an average of 88 small conical-shaped teeth, which they use not for chewing, just merely for grasping.
One of the questions most often asked aquarium people is how they feel about keeping these animals in captivity, wondering if perhaps the animals wouldn't be better off in their natural habitat. Seaquarium General Manager Burton Clark answers.
In captivity, these animals who seem to have a natural native affinity for the companionship of man receive the very best of care. They are free from the danger of attack by shark. We know that sharks attack the dolphins in the wild because many that we have captured and many that we have released have shown that we healed the scars of shark bites. I'm often asked the question, and this occurs in the letters that we receive, how would a dolphin fare in direct combat with a shark? Well, I think the best answer to that is that in a one-to-one combat, the dolphin would probably come out the victor because the dolphin is more agile, can swim faster, and of course is highly intelligent, where sharks are very low in the order of intelligence among all the creatures. They're really primitive throwbacks to prehistoric times. On the other hand, if a family of a dozen to 20 dolphins were surrounded by a pack of 100 or more of the more dangerous types of sharks, somebody is going to get hurt.
In the wild, the animals may go several days without eating anything at all. Here at this aquarium, they get 4 regular meals a day. They also get a veterinarian who makes house calls. Dolphins are warm-blooded, air-breathing animals, just like you and I. And like you and I, they're susceptible to diseases, including the common cold and the Asian flu. Keeping them free of disease is a full-time job, as this aquarium veterinarian can attest.
My daily rounds try to see each individual animal. I look for things like external marks, abnormal behaviors noted in the animals. Animals can become dehydrated very quickly. Their only source of fluid intake is their food, the water that is taken in with the food and the water that is metabolized and made in their body. Therefore, when the animal is not eating, he becomes dehydrated. The animals receive a frozen fish diet, frozen fish that are thawed, and in fish that is handled in this way, certain vitamins and nutritional elements are absent. Therefore, we have to supplement them with vitamins and minerals. We do this by placing the vitamins in the fish daily and feeding it. The first sign of illness is an absence of appetite, but individual animals can play tricks on you. They can stop eating for no reason at all. One important thing I do look at is their eyes. This is an indication sometimes of dehydration. We usually wait a day or so to evaluate this situation. After that, we want to usually take a look at the animal. We have to drop the water and take the animal out of the water, possibly get a blood test, get a physical examination of the animal, and generally evaluate the animal. This requires a lot of subjective judgment in the case of these marine mammals.
And while it may seem enough to keep the animals physically healthy, there are other equally important considerations.
These animals are gregarious. They do need the company of their own kind or companionship of an animal that is close enough to their own kind. No matter how much human attention they get, you must remember that this is only during the day, that there are many hours during the night where an animal alone in a tank would be under severe emotional stress. We try our best to minimize this and never have an animal alone in a tank unless it's for quarantine purposes or medical treatment.
This attitude resulted in a rather odd coupling between Hugo the killer whale and a Pacific white-sided dolphin named Moana. Hugo, a cold water animal, had arrived at this aquarium quite some time before his present whale companion, Lolita. He exhibited all the symptoms of being very lonely. But the only other cold water animal at the Seaquarium was Moana, the Pacific white-sided dolphin, which normally would be nothing but a tasty appetizer for a killer whale. Behavioral observations made during Hugo's training period, however, showed that once relieved of the necessity of capturing its food, the killer whale was not really a killer at all, as can be attested by the fact that Hugo and Moana became inseparable friends and are still together to this day. Another question often asked aquarium people is very simply, how in the world do you get those animals to do all those tricks? Flipper's trainer explains.
Original training starts with getting the dolphin to eat. This is your main concern, getting it to eat. Then you start getting it to eat from your hand. Then you start getting the dolphin to sit up. From there, if you want it to ring a bell, instead of giving the dolphin a piece of fish, you put the ball in its mouth and then give it its piece of fish. You do this a couple of times until the dolphin realizes that it must touch a ball before it gets its fish. A lot of the behaviors we get, such as swan jumps, a lot of the time the dolphin will do that by themselves. And then we just reward them for doing things, and once they learn that they are getting fish for doing a certain behavior, then they start doing it more and more, and they start realizing that if they make something up and we like it, then we reward them for it.
It's Pavlov's reward theory, refined with time, reinforced with love. To most people, this aquarium is dolphins and fish and whales. But this aquarium's true role goes a lot deeper than what most people see on the surface.
Due to the nature of our collecting methods, the large boat that we have and well-trained crew, we have the ability not only to collect in the waters of Biscayne Bay and the outlying oceanic areas, but also to make extensive trips through the Bahama Islands. And this really gives us the unique opportunity to sample a cross-section of the marine life in the entire South Florida and Bahamas areas. And so we have this opportunity to come up not only with the normal things that we display day to day, but more often than not, every trip will yield something of tremendous interest.
And being students of the sea themselves, the Seaquarium people are as concerned with how they collect as they are with what they collect.
The Seaquarium philosophy of collecting is to be very conservative. Every effort is made so that no accidental damage occurs to any of the coral structures that are the homes of the myriad of the tiny creatures of the sea. A giant loggerhead sponge may take 75 years to grow to be 3 feet high and can be the home of between 200 and 500 of the most beautiful and colorful marine fishes. It would be criminal to damage this, so it's take 1 or 2 fish here, 1 or 2 fish there, leave the rest. mechanical techniques have been used. Some of them we have avoided using because especially these little colorful reef fishes are so delicate. They must be handled with the utmost of care.
When unusual or rare specimens are discovered on a collecting trip, they're photographed and placed in one of the aquarium exhibits that occupy 40% of this aquarium's display area.
Little seahorses, fishes, no matter what they are, we take them immediately and photograph them swimming around, try to simulate somewhat their natural habitat. And then these photographs are used in our displays. We use them above the aquariums so that people can look in the aquarium, see the specimen swimming around, and correlate this with the photograph and some good information that tells what it is, where it came from, where it lives normally, perhaps some general information on how it feeds or how it defends itself, this sort of thing.
Occasionally, a new specimen may turn up that turns out to be a major scientific discovery. At this point, this aquarium will join forces with their neighbors at the Rosenstiel School of Marine Sciences, a part of the University of Miami. With the help of the university staff, this aquarium's finds are identified, and often valuable information can be made available to the scientific community.
Then when I got this larger specimen, I could see that certain other features were appearing on it that reminded me of a seahorse that's common in the Bahamas and down through the Caribbean islands, one that very rarely occurs in Florida. And with further study, I think was able to show conclusively that these were the same species. But it's one little piece of biological information that we now have that we really did not have before.
In addition to discovering different forms of sea life, this aquarium has worked very hard to create a natural environment for the various forms of sea life already there. The outdoor displays have been especially successful in attracting wild creatures who took one look at the place and decided to stay.
In our Lost Islands area, we never know who might just drop in. For 8 years now, the wild little green herons have nested there and raised their young. We've had Louisiana herons, we've had the ringbill gull, and one of the most interesting things that happened there is that the little killifishes, which are a hardy little marine fish, maximum size about maybe 1.5 inches, they spontaneously appeared. Now, whether the young ones came in through the supply pump and managed to survive the passage through the pipe, I don't know. They were not introduced by us. For at least 15 years, they have enthusiastically multiplied in there to the point where I think this is the reason the wild shorebirds come in. It's a place to get a free meal.
The sanctuary nature of these lost islands has enabled environmentalists to give endangered species a fighting chance to make it in today's world. These rare leatherback turtles are being raised at this aquarium for the Florida Department of Natural Resources. As soon as they're old enough to have a good chance for survival, they'll be released and returned to the sea. This aquarium's lost islands have also provided a natural laboratory for students of all ages.
Probably 60% of the inquiries that we get come from school children. Now, this ranges all the way from grade school children up to graduate students in colleges and universities. These are the people that we feel deserve everything that we can give them in the way of useful information. The tremendous increase in the popularity of marine mammals such as the dolphins and porpoises, the killer whales and sea lions has stimulated a great deal of interest, particularly among students. A lot of them seem to think that this is a field in which they can do useful and rewarding work. It's a limited field, and many are going to be disappointed. On the other hand, there may be just those 1 or 2 people who are going to dedicate a lifetime to it. and make a real contribution to the sum of man's knowledge about these interesting creatures.
And so the Miami Seaquarium continues to teach people of all ages and all nations about the vast and intriguing sea around us. And perhaps the most amazing part of all is that since 1955, the Seaquarium has educated these millions of people in such an entertaining way that they never even knew they'd been to school. In this, the most exciting classroom of all, where the teachers are sinister sharks, brilliant living jewels of the reef, flipper, and the incredible killer whales.